Hey there, how there, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome to yet another Cutter Top 10 sports video. And today we're going to be looking at the top 10 Daytona 500 moments. Of course, NASCAR's Premier Duel has a fantastic finishing spirit. I know the Coca-Cola 600 also counts too, but the fact of the matter is that Daytona 500 was first. It was 1959, and practically, it was even ran on Daytona Beach, literally for years before they built the speedway. So you know, we've seen a lot of great moments in Daytona in the past. Number 10 is a historic first in 1977 as Jenna Guthrie, who was known for pushing gender stereotypes, basically was one of the first to qualify for IndyCar at the Indy 500. But she also attempted to qualify for NASCAR and the Daytona 500, and she got in, but she had a terrible start to her thing. But she was always pushing boundaries, and she trailblazed one for Danica Patrick, who did a few Daytona 500s of her own. Number 9 is my boy Kevin Harvick. I have the Kevin Harvick plate with me, of course. He's my boy. But Kevin Harvick is a legendary competitor, and his big win in 2007 was amazing. It was one of the most electrifying finishes ever. Mark Martin was always so close to winning the Daytona 500, but he missed out. I can't remember if he was the guy in 2002 who was disqualified because he worked on his car during a red flag, and you can't do that. But somehow Kevin Harvick, my boy, charged deep in the pack, surged alongside Mark Martin. It was down to the finish line, and somehow by 0.02 seconds, it was Harvick to win. That was just amazing and all of that. Unfortunately, though, that was not the only reason why the 2007 race is remembered. It's also remembered for Clint Boyer in his O2 car, Jack Daniels car, sliding across the finish line on its roof. Fortunately, it was moved upright, and he was fine. But yeah, Clint Boyer scared a lot of people. Number 8 is Richard Petty's win at the 1984 Daytona 500. It was amazing what Richard Petty could do at the Daytona 500. He won 7 of some of these races. You could also say that his 1976 race was also huge because the finish with David Pearson. In a sense, it should be Petty with 1976, his race with Pearson. But the fact of the matter is that Richard Petty was an icon and all that. And yeah, 1976 was iconic. Him and Pearson crashed near the end with ABC's Wide World of Sports broadcasting it on tape delay. And then somehow, in some way, Pearson beat Petty to the line and all that. Number 7 is the Dale and Dale finish from 1993. CBS was really ready for it and all that. They won a good race. Dale Earnhardt, who for years and years and years just couldn't win a race. In 1990, he was upstaged by last lap tire blowout, if you will, because of shrapnel and all that. And I still can't remember who won in 1990. I should have taken a look. But yeah, it was just amazing. But Earnhardt was looking for his first title at Daytona, at the Daytona 500. But Dale Jarrett, good old number 88, was chasing Earnhardt. It was the Dale and Dale show. Of course, Ned Jarrett, who was in the broadcast booth for CBS, kind of showed his true colors by cheering on Dale and all that. Ned's emotional, iconic commentary added to the moment, and father and son embraced victory lane. It was one of the most touching moments in history, and poor Dale Earnhardt lost another chance at the Daytona 500. That just feels terrible. Number 6 is the photo finish that took days to scrutinize, and that was Lee Petty against Johnny Beauchamp in the first ever Daytona 500 in 1959. It was a precedent for drama. After 500 miles, Lee Petty and Johnny Beauchamp was across the finish line door to door, nearly indistinguishable to the naked eye. Remember, this is before lots of hawkline technology and all the things. Even instant replay wasn't around in 1959, but it was unknown and all that. People thought Boschep won, but after photo evidence came through in 3 days, Petty was given the victory. It was just amazing how a photo finish literally had a photo as a finish, and that was amazing. Number 5 is a shocking win in the 2011 Daytona 500 by Trevor Bayne. Trevor Bayne, this was only his second NASCAR Cup Series or the Big Boy League start, and one day after his 20th birthday. I mean, when you're 20, you're not really into NASCAR and all that. You're really in the minor leagues. We're doing the number 21 Ford. Trevor Bayne shocked a lot of people. The Wood brothers actually were great racers in the 70s and 80s. But, it was just amazing that Trevor Bayne came out of freaking nowhere in a green white checkered finish, meaning that the green flag was lifted and then the white for one lap to go and then checkered flag. Bayne shocked everyone by becoming the youngest winner in Daytona 500 history. I mean, how often do you race the Daytona 500 under the age of 20? You can't. You really can't. It had passion for the underdog and gave the Wood brothers team their first win in 3 decades as a team. Number 4 was the tragic loss of Dale Earnhardt in 2001. I didn't rank it higher because I didn't want to glorify its death. But yeah, it was just huge tragedy and triumph and all that. The last lap crash in 2001 that took the life of Dale Earnhardt Sr. Dale Earnhardt was in a wreck with I can't remember who it was for third place. I would say Jeff Bodine, but I'm probably wrong. But anyhow, Earnhardt was fighting for third place, trying to protect his 2 teammates, Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who were racing 1-2. Earnhardt's car hit a crash and all that. Of course, they didn't flag it because it was the last lap. And then Waltrip snuck into first place, and Dale protected his teammates' thing. And it shook everything that Dale crashed, but usually Dale crashes worse than that. And everyone thought he was okay. And of course, kind of like 93 and 2001, there was a emotional commentator in the booth, and that was Darrell Waltrip, one of the top 10 NASCAR drivers of all time I talked about a couple days ago. But the fact is that his son Michael won the race in 2001. It was just an amazing time. Unfortunately, though, everyone's thoughts were on Dale Sr., and unfortunately, he died because his back got broken and, he was dead. It shocked everyone. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone learned that Dale Sr. had died. It had sweeping safety reforms that have saved countless lives. And the 2001 race is forever marked by heartbreak and then resilience shown by the sport. And of course, this is 7 months before you know what. Speaking of that, well, let's talk about number 3, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s emotional triumph in 2004. For Dale Jr., the legacy of his father loomed large. Dale Jr. did win the 2001 Pepsi 400, which was at Daytona Speedway. It wasn't as big as the Daytona 500, but it was a race at Daytona. And a lot of people said it was fixed so that Dale Jr. can win at Daytona. 3 years later, he went to the Daytona 500 in 2004 with revenge on his mind. He drove for Dale Sr.'s team, and he led the most laps and took the checkered flag. It was just emotional to see him finally win the Daytona 500 in honor of his father, all that. Number 2 was the Daytona 500 that brought NASCAR into the American consciousness. 1979, Cal Yarborough having to fight the Allisons, Donnie and Bobby. The 79 Daytona 500 actually would be the first Daytona 500 to be broadcast live, not on tape delay. They go from flag to flag and is entirely across the United States. And thanks to CBS actually willing to do that, it was amazing. Much of the country had to be glued to their TVs, mostly because of a rare winter storm on the East Coast. So thus, more people were going to watch the race on CBS. So anyhow, on the last lap, Cal Yarborough and Donnie Allison collided. They were crashing into each other. They were 1-2. They crashed into the infield and all that. In the meantime, Richard Petty took advantage of the crash at the front and drove to first place, giving him another title at Daytona. But Cale and Donnie would actually have a fist fight. Bobby Allison would actually protect his brother, and then the three drivers hit the fist fight, if you will, to broadcast live to the nation. And the cameras were there and all that. So yeah, the Daytona 500 was big, but the brawl in the infield actually brought people to glue in for NASCAR because of all the drama it had in the mainstream. So yeah, so Cale's fight with Donnie and Bobby Allison was huge in 1979 and brought NASCAR to the public consciousness. Kind of stupid, don't you think? And number one was the great win for Dale Earnhardt at Daytona 500 in 1998. For 19 long years, he would be chasing for that elusive trophy but failed. He won 7 NASCAR Series season championships, but the one gaping hole in his resume was the Daytona 500. Earnhardt said in interviews that if John Elway can win the Super Bowl after many years of trying, then why can't he win the Daytona 500? Which is true because John Elway, 15 years after his career started, finally won the big race for football, that being the Super Bowl, in his 4th attempt. And in 98, Earnhardt's luck turned. A late race caution froze the field, and with precision, Earnhardt crossed the finish line. And then, of course, the race had to end under a caution flag. So Earnhardt was first across the line when that happened, so he won the race. But here's the big thing. He was so damn respected that every crew member, and that isn't just for Earnhardt's team, but for all the teams along pit road, lined up to offer him handshakes as he drove to victory lane. A gesture of respect rarely seen in NASCAR. Dale Sr. was a legend, and all that 1998 had to have been one of the most highly rated Daytona 500s ever. But that's the point, because Dale Earnhardt Sr. is a legend, and don't you forget about it. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.